G'day everyone, welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark, and the South African versus Italian game has just finished seconds ago, and I want to give you my quick report of what I thought of the game. Well, what a game it was. It started off once again at a fanatic pace, and it was all over the place in that first few minutes, and we saw Franco Mostert get a red card, and just like last week against France, this time, South Africa were down to 14 men again, and it was going to have a big impact on the game, just like it did last week. But finally, in a positive sense for South Africa as they overcome all the trials and tribulations. But in the beginning, that first half, it was really incredible. Rassie, again, making a lot of changes, making sure that he's trying to firm up the scrum that they were having a lot of trouble with. Steenenkamp came on. Of course, we saw him go on early. Bowen Venter came off. And we saw a lot of changes being made by Rassie, and that was really the predicament in the first half. I thought Italy started off really well. Every time they got the ball, they did look dangerous, but they were just making the wrong decisions at times. I thought in terms of their backline play, Monty Ioane was a standout. Liner on the wing was doing very well. And Capuzzo at fullback was having a big game for them. But Gabisi, for me, I talked about him during the Rugby World Cup in 23. His goal kicking can be hot and cold. Today it was cold. He could have cost Italy this game in the first half with a couple of misses, and that kept them out of touch on the scoreboard. So at halftime, it was South Africa leading 10-3. And what did South Africa do in the back end of that first half that I thought was tremendous? They owned it. They owned that last few minutes of the first half. And as soon as they got a free kick opportunity, the halftime clock was already up, but South Africa got the opportunity, and Vandenberg went over for a try, and that was a fantastic catalyst for South Africa going into halftime to go out to 10 points to 3. Up until that stage, it was 3-3. It was tight. South Africa were having lots of problems with the Italians, particularly in the scrum. They were losing a lot of penalties and free kicks the Italians were getting. And I tell you what, the Italians looked really good at times in that first half. They were running the ball. Brix, Menincello, Ioane, fantastic in the outside backline for this Italian team. And you've really seen, or I've seen, the level of play from this Italian team go up significantly in the last 12 months. And they were competing in this game. But let's face it, South Africa had their backs to the wall again because of the red card decision. And I'll let you all start commenting on that, as I'm sure we're going to over the next few days. But it was again the tenacity of the South Africans. So we saw at halftime in the changing rooms, Rassie having a big talk to the South Africans and obviously getting them in tune for what was going to happen in the second half. Now, I had picked it in my preview show that I thought the South Africans were going to be too strong for Italy in the second half and that they were going to be able to run away with this game. But the dynamics in this game were very different, weren't they? We saw the Italians playing very well. They were getting good line-out ball at times as well. And I thought that was keeping them in the game. So good performances in the forwards, and Zuliani was doing extremely well for the Italians in terms of breakovers and steals. Turnovers and steals. Absolute player for Italy is Zuliani, and keep your eye on him. He's only going to get better. Cannonilis, both of them were doing very well until we saw a yellow card by one of them in the second half. But for me, it was going to be all about what happened in the second half. Were South Africa going to be able to control the ball a little bit more? And we saw a really big decision in the second half that I thought started to change the game, and that's when the Italians lost one of their men to a yellow card. It was definitely a yellow card, no doubt about it. He had head contact and there was no mitigating circumstances, so Cannelloni went off in the second half, and that made it parity on the field in terms of 14 versus 14 at the time. And that's when South Africa started the grind. And from that time onwards, I thought it's only a matter of time before we see South Africa start to grind away. And we saw fantastic performances, I thought, from Damian Willemse in this game. He was outstanding from the get-go. There was a couple of times where Italy were on attack and Willemse was the last man in defence, and he was able to save the day. What he does really well, David Willemse, for me, is when he brings the ball out from the back line, he doesn't just beat one man. He goes on a run. He can beat 2 or 3 guys. He can also kick the ball out and exit very well, and he was doing all of that in the game, particularly in the first half. For me, Willemse was the man of the game for South Africa in that first half. Thought he was doing very, very well. And then in the second half, well, Rassie had to do it again. We saw Sia Kolisi go off in his 101st cap for the Springboks, and Andre Esterhuizen coming on again, of course, having to shore up that forward pack. And later on, we saw Quagga Smith coming on as well. But it was the 3 tries again from South Africa in the second half, just like they did last week against France. They started to grind away and put the pressure on, and they opened the ball up, and that was really, really good to see from the Springboks in the second half. So 3 second half tries for the Springboks, and this was really the difference in the game. As we got into the later part of the game, we saw a try early on from Vandenberg, and then we saw Grant Williams again on the back of a great move by Kainan Moody, who got through a break and set up the move to pass inside to Grant Williams, who went on to score a try just like he did against France last week. I love it when Grant Williams comes on in that second half. He's really a finisher and impact player for the Springboks, and it was a great part of his supporting play that he was there for Kainan Moody to receive that pass and go under the sticks and score another try. And then in the last minutes or so of the game, we saw Ethan Hooker score his first try for South Africa in an international game. So a fantastic accomplishment by Ethan Hooker. And you're standing out on the wing, even though he was playing number 12 throughout this game for the Springboks. So he got to score in the end. So I think the South Africans did it once again, 32 points to 14. A fantastic performance in the second half. Down to 14 men for most of the game. So once again, Rassie's technical ability to be able to read the game strategically played out well in the Springboks. Well, if you can't beat them with 14 men, well, how are you going to beat them? But I tell you what, a lot of credit to Italy in this game. They look like a really good rugby team now. And as I said in my preview video, I just think with some of the players they've got back into this team this year, Capuzzo at fullback is really good. Liner and Ioane on the wings, and Brix and Menoncello in the midfield. That's really a brilliant backline for the Italian team. Gabisi at number 10, he still gives me a lot of nerves. He's not confident, I think, in terms of his kicking as well. And I think if Italy are able to find a good number 10 who really ignites their backline heading into the Rugby World Cup in 27, they're going to give a lot of teams a lot of trouble. I like the way their forwards go. We saw great performances today from Ferrari as well as Riccioni, who went off with a head injury during the game, which is a little bit unfortunate for him. We saw a few HIAs, in fact, in this game. And I thought the Italian forwards, they did pretty well in this game. They ran out of gas at the end, and when they were down to parity in terms of number of men on the field, South Africa do what they do very well. So another back-to-back performance from South Africa with 14 men on the field. There'll be lots of discussions around Mostert's red card, of course, just like there was last week. But again, they showed their ability to be able to stay patient, stay in the game, and that's what I like about the South African team. They're able to work out a solution. Rassie's sitting up there working out, okay, what players do we need on the field? He was juggling the forwards there for quite a while because the scrum wasn't working at all for South Africa. Italy were winning scrums. They were winning scrum free kicks and scrum penalties. And then all of a sudden, we started to see the change. Wilco Low came on, of course. He makes a huge difference. But then we saw Venter come back on as well because Steenenkamp had to go off. So again, I think the South African players that came on, we saw Zachary Portin. He was sacrificed pretty early because what was going on with Franco Mostert, so he didn't get to play as many minutes as he probably liked, as well as Khaleesi again. And Ben Jason Dixon was another that was sacrificed because of what South Africa had to do with their substitutes in this game. But RG Schneemann came on again and made a big difference in the game, and Quagga had a really good game as well. Marco van Staden got a yellow card, but he also did some good things, scored a try also for the Springboks. In fact, he was the one that scored the try just before halftime that really got South Africa springboarding into that second half. So a really exciting game of rugby. I wrote down that it was like about 10 drama novels in that first half. There was so much going on. I was running out of paper to write on. And then in the second half, we saw what South Africa does so well. So a good win in the end to South Africa. But Italy, you can hold your head up very high. That was a really good performance. You ran out of gas in the last 10 minutes, but South Africa is doing this to every team that they play at the moment. But I'm sure that Gonzalo Quesada is going to be able to get these guys up. I think they're playing Chile next week, and that's going to be a chance for Italy to really put it all together and put on a lot of tries. But another good performance, a good win over Australia last week, and a good standout performance again by Italy in this game against the back-to-back world champions in South Africa. But a great performance. Congratulations to all the Boks fans around the world. Good to see plenty of them in the stadium there in Turin in this game. And I'll be back later on to give a very in-depth analysis of this game after I've had time to reflect on it a little bit more and also watch all the rest of the games that are coming up today. So I'll leave it there for now. But thank you very much for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell notification as well to be notified when I drop my next video. And let's get on watching some more rugby today. Congratulations, South Africa. I'll see you all again soon from Inside Rugby with Mark. Until then, it's adios from me in beautiful Cancun. Bye for now, everyone.